It's September 22nd. STU Journalism and the New Brunswick Beacon present The Basement Tapes.
Hi, I'm Alicia Bosch.
And I'm Samantha Bach.
Welcome to a new season of The Basement Tapes. We got a great show lined up for you today.
Our lead stories are delays in bridge construction,
10 years later, 9/11 revisited,
and a special report from Greece.
Most Fredericton motorists use the Princess Margaret Bridge to cross the St. John River every day. Renovations on it resume this summer. As delays persist, the other side of the river may seem like an ocean away. Cedric Noel has a story.
For Tom Bateman, a fourth-year student at St. Thomas University, driving to school from Fredericton's north side is a daily hassle. To get to school, he used to cross the Princess Margaret Bridge, but since it was closed for renovations on May 11th, he's had to take the long way round. The bridge was scheduled to be up and running September 5th, but because of wet weather and the effects of Hurricane Irene, the renovations have been pushed back to mid-October.
It is an inconvenience, and it's lousy that these things don't get done on time.
Bateman wasn't as affected by the closure in the summer, but now that school has started again, the delays are getting to him.
Well, as a student, obviously the delays are a lot bigger in the morning. There's a lot of congestion on either side of the bridge as motorists try and get onto the bridge. So I have to plan for that. If I have, for classes in the morning, especially around the rush hour time, I do have to just, plan an extra 10, 20 minutes into my day to drive.
The provincial government is spending $80 million to give the bridge a facelift. Once Montreal-based construction company SNC Laval Incorporated completes the project, the bridge should accommodate traffic for another 50 years. The City of Fredericton website offers tips to cope with the closure. It encourages residents to carpool, use other modes of transportation, or to even take a vacation.
Construction on McLaren Avenue and Forest Hill Road is now complete. This may help to decongest Fredericton roadways. A specific date for the completion of the renovations has yet to be released. This leaves many Fredericton residents wondering when they'll be able to cross the Princess Margaret Bridge again. For STU Journalism, I'm Cedric Noel.
With summer coming to an end, cyclists in Fredericton are enjoying the outdoors before the long winter. Cyclists use sidewalks, bike lanes, and trails to navigate the city. However, a debate about the use of bike lanes has gained public interest. City councillors and cyclists are working to resolve the issue. Whitney Nielsen has the story.
Many cyclists don't know if they should use the sidewalk or the road. Fredericton bylaws state that it's illegal to bike on sidewalks, but some motorists force cyclists off the road. Chris Johnston relies on his bike. He writes a blog about the challenges of cycling in Fredericton. He hopes to inspire people to use alternative methods of transportation.
Decided, well, if I can start one change, why not get other people to change, and then maybe that can lead the entire population to think differently.
More people are starting to use Fredericton's bike lanes and trails. The 17 trails cover 80 kilometers.
Roads get a little hectic to navigate, especially around rush hour, and I like these paved trails, but they do get quite congested in some areas with families with kids. It's a little difficult to get around, but it's not nothing too burdensome.
In Nova Scotia, it's mandatory to leave 1 meter between cars and bikes when passing. Many accidents happen in New Brunswick because this is not law.
Last year in front of the Ross drugstore on Queen Street, where an elderly lady stepped out the door and got clipped by a bicycle. She got knocked to the sidewalk. And that's not unusual. That happens enough times in the summer that I consider it to be a problem.
Traffic engineer Darren Charter says there will be 29 kilometers of bike routes added by October. This is in addition to 23 bike lanes added this summer. Stephen Kelly is the only city councillor opposed to the use of bike lanes. He was unavailable for comment. For the New Brunswick Beacon, I'm Whitney Nielsen.
Every year, families and friends flood downtown Fredericton to watch the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival. This year, the band Double Dutch Hutch brings their families right on stage. Kevin Stewart reports.
For Rick and Sean Hutchins, the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival is a unique chance for father and son to take the stage together.
Oh, absolutely awesome. I mean, Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival is the premier event in Fredericton. Playing to a big crowd, Good sound, good tech. I mean, everything just fits. It's perfect.
Rick was an original member of the Fredericton-based Downtown Blues Band. He recently retired to focus more on Double Dutch Hutch. Sean is the lead guitarist for the newly formed rock band, the Midnight Ramblers, a local band made up of Sean and 4 close friends. Double Dutch Hutch are one of 4 finalists to represent Harvest at the 2012 International Blues Challenge, taking place in Memphis, Tennessee. Harvest allows jazz and blues fans to come enjoy local musicians they normally wouldn't have a chance to see.
As you look at Ross Nielsen, you look at Keith Hallett, they're opening for headliners. They're playing big shows to big crowds. Some people that have never heard them, big exposure. Someone like me, I'm at a show here and a lot of people probably didn't even know me, and in the future they will.
Double Dutch Hutch is a great example of how the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival helps local artists showcase their talents. For STU Journalism, I'm Kevin Stewart.
Fredericton's She Roars has been making waves on the Atlantic music scene lately. They performed at Harvest Jazz to promote their upcoming album, Companion. For more on this, we turn to Frank Molly.
Max LeBlanc, Kyle Clark, Chris McIntosh, and Nick Murins have been playing together as a band since 2007 under the name She Roars. On Thursday, they performed during the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival for their 2nd consecutive year. The boys roared on stage during their 1-hour set, playing hits like Tragically Pop and Gotta Keep It Going, and the crowd seemed to love their sound. I got a chance to talk to bassist Chris McIntosh, along with the rest of the guys, about how they got started.
So what got you guys started? You guys sound really great.
You know, I was talking to Max at a party one night. We were all playing in hardcore bands and stuff, and I was like, I kind of want to start an indie band, and Max, had something to give me, so we started.
Despite tonight's rain, a fairly large crowd gathered under the Galaxy Barracks tent to take in the vibrant sound of She Roars with admiration and good cheer. With their upcoming album entitled Companion, the group says they're looking forward to its release show on October 6th, held at the Capitol Bar in Fredericton, and again on October 8th at Pepper's Pub in St. John.
Yeah, we're going to do a release show on October the 6th in Fredericton, then we're going to play October the 8th in St. John at Pepper's Pub.
She Roars put on a great performance at this year's Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival. I'll be sure not to miss their new album's release show at the Capitol Bar on October 6th.
For
STU Journalism,
I'm Frank Molly.
We're She Roars.
She Roars.
While money is flooding into the downtown area of Fredericton due to the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival, the local Blockbuster store is preparing for closure. Since June, 130 Blockbuster stores in Canada have closed due to the digital movie trend. Vanessa Cormier reports.
In August, Blockbuster Canada released an official statement explaining their sudden closure. The organization says their bricks-and-mortar business model has experienced significant challenges over the last few years due to the proliferation of various alternatives available to consumers in Canada. An estimated 2,500 Blockbuster employees will be out of work with the store's closure, including those at Fredericton's Blockbuster locations. Fredericton resident Kelsey Rutledge is not surprised by Blockbuster closing.
I guess for probably the last year and a half, I've been using Netflix and, streaming online, and it's unfortunate, but it's cheaper and easier.
Netflix is a company offering unlimited video streaming on hundreds of movies throughout devices like Nintendo Wii, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and laptops. After a 1-month free trial, the company charges $7.99 a month for movie streaming services.
On August 4th, Netflix Canada reached 1 million subscribers, 10 months after its launch. With popularity in sites like Netflix and movie streaming sites, it's difficult to predict the future for movie rental stores. Stores like Jumbo Video in Fredericton are lowering their prices to attract their customers.
Ashley Price, a clerk at Jumbo Video, is hopeful for the future of movie rental.
I always just like coming to the movie store, just to get out of the house and just the feel of the place. You come in and get some popcorn.
Although Blockbuster is closing their doors, Those who enjoy that movie store feel, like Ashley Price, will still have rental stores to turn to. For STU Journalism, I'm Vanessa Cormier.
Tradition is a big part of student life. While some have public support, others have raised concern. The annual couch burnings in the College Hill area are part of that concern. Justin Marshall has the story.
Couches burn in the streets of College Hill area every fall and spring. It's a tradition that, while entertaining for some, is also illegal. Students living in the many rental properties on Graham Avenue and Hanson Street are often witnesses or participants in what is at best mischief and at worst arson.
No, there's no question this is not just a matter to be taken lightly. When someone decides to take an item such as a couch or garbage or a mattress or whatever, put it in the street, which is meant for people to travel on, then they are committing a criminal offense.
This fall there have been 3 reported fires, which is around the same number as this time last year. The city councillor for the UNB and East End area, Jordan Graham, says that the city has been working with the neighborhood to reduce the number of fires.
The program initiated to actively remove debris from the area with the hopes that if it was gone for a few years, it would impact the culture of the hill. And we saw a lot of positive impact from that. So,
though the Fredericton Police Force responds to the calls reporting the fires, it is often difficult to lay charges.
Again, oftentimes what happens is people who are committing the act are doing it after nightfall. They're scooting out with the couch, they're lighting it, and if no one sees them, if no one is a witness to that, which would be a key piece of evidence, right?
Fires cause property damage that is still visible long after most debris has been cleared away. Some of it, like these coins I found here, are even burnt into the road. $2.36 richer. For STU Journalism, I'm Justin Marshall.
A popular mixed martial arts club in Fredericton has opened its doors to cage fight training. Tony Peter Paul has the story.
Evolution Fight and Fitness has been in operation since 2008. It offers Muay Thai, cardio boxing, karate, and MMA classes for both male and female, young and old. World-renowned kickboxer Andy Young owns the club and has incorporated a complete MMA training program.
The knee comes up, and then I draw it with the ball of my foot and reach chamber and come down.
We started the new program about a month ago because of the widely popular show, the UFC Ultimate Fighter reality show, and also the other mixed martial arts organizations around the world.
Its aim is to bring fitness junkies and troubled youth off the streets and into a disciplined environment.
Now you're going to get this leg past your head. There we go.
It's really a great avenue for some of our local fighters and amateur fighters to start making those stepping stones to get into professional fighting, and eventually one day maybe the UFC and some of the bigger organizations around the country and around the world.
The club's walls are covered with mirrors and contains dozens of heavy bags, reflex bags, a speed bag, medicine balls, training pads, skipping ropes, a boxing ring, and now a full octagon cage for real-life exposure to cage fighting.
I love it. I train hard. I feel good, and I'm really glad that it's here in Fredericton, and it's booming across Canada. So it's good that it's come to this area, and we're very fortunate to have a club like Evolution to train at.
With Evolution's new MMA program, New Brunswick's capital city can now train and contend in the growing world of cage fighting. For STU Journalism, I'm Tony Peter Paul.
The Canadian Brewing Panel is the top authority in suds across the country. They recently held their national judging of beers and breweries. A local flavor won a top award. Shane Fowler has the details.
For years, Fredericton residents have enjoyed one of the best-kept secrets in the Canadian beer industry. Last week, the Canadian Brewing Panel decided local microbrewery Picaroons was to be New Brunswick's first Canadian Brewery of the Year. It's an award some residents say could not be more well-deserved.
It's a big deal, because there's a lot of breweries out there. Quebec has a ton of just small, really, really good breweries, but to have these guys at the top this year, it's good.
In addition to Brewery of the Year, Picaroons also won gold for their stout beer, Timberhog, and the English Stout Best Bitter.
Yes, I believe it, and I've lived all over Canada, so definitely.
Here at the Brewtique, Picaroons employee Ali Dubensky feels that the title will only bring good things.
I think it means that our business is going to grow, it's going to expand, and that it's going to get better as we go.
Despite the fact that the beer brand has been extremely successful, the owner, Sean Dunbar, remains coy about any serious expansion. He's gone on record stating his reluctance to go beyond the microbrewery category. For STU Journalism, I'm Shane Fowler.
United States President Barack Obama is pushing for Congress to pass the American Jobs Bill. The $477 billion bill contains a Buy American clause that has many Canadian officials worried. The clause requires American materials be used for the construction projects funded by the bill. With nearly $100 million outlined for funding, this will hurt Canadian industry. The 2009 stimulus package contained a similar Buy American clause, but Canada was ultimately exempt. St. Thomas University political science teacher Jamie Gillies warns that this year may be different.
This is not like 2009 with the stimulus package, where there was a Buy American clause and then Canadian officials worked with American officials to allow a waiver for Canadian products to kind of get around the Buy American clause that pleased everybody. 2012 is an election year. 90% of Americans support a Buy American clause in a Jobs Act.
Poverty in America is at a 30-year high, and a majority of Americans are worried about unemployment. Job creation is an important issue, and President Obama will want to push this plan to gain support for 2012. Despite this, Canadian Trade Minister Ed Fast says he is going to do everything he can to persuade the Obama administration to exempt Canada.
It's been 10 years since one of the worst terrorist attacks in history. While memorials were held across the world, local members of the Muslim community shared their thoughts on how things have changed. Mark Logie reports.
This Sunday marked the 10th year anniversary of the September 11th attacks, a day no one will soon forget. The St. Thomas Interfaith Group held a memorial ceremony for those who lost their lives in the tragedy. Ronnie Stevens, a member of the St. Thomas Aboriginal Group, was a part of the ceremony. A Christian churchgoer, Ronnie feels that the Muslim communities suffered some of the worst backlash in the years following the events of 9/11.
It was more with the Muslim groups that got affected by this all. They're the ones that had a hard time in America and in New York and places like that. They were the ones that were castrated or ostracized for saying that they were, it's all Muslims' fault, and it's not. It was just this Al Qaeda or Jihad. It was just a certain sect of a denomination who went and did these horrendous acts.
Naveed Majid, a local freelance environmental engineer and communications director of the Fredericton Muslim Association, says that the last 10 years have created a warped and unfair perception of Muslims, which he has experienced firsthand.
Here I was, working as an engineer, and all of a sudden, I'm told, well, we don't have any more work for you, and you have to go. But the thing that hurt me the most was when I came back to say hello to them, there was another person in my position. Reasoning was thrown out. Just reasoning was gone. Just fear struck everybody. It seemed like more than fear, they were insulted. Like North America was insulted by how that could happen.
Naveed thanked us for the opportunity to share his thoughts, and for bringing light to an issue he feels is greatly understated. He's uncertain how long it will take to undo the bigotry and fear inspired by 9/11, but says the U.S. won't properly recover until the Muslim faith is demystified and more fairly portrayed in the media. For STU Journalism, I'm Mark Logie.
Students in Chile are fighting for educational reform. Since May, there have been protests to draw attention to the cause. The students have held street demonstrations, flash mobs, and other events. They want everyone to have access to education and more government funding. The problem comes partly from high levels of inequality in Chile. Since the protests began, President Piñera has become less popular. Polls show his approval is now less than 30%.
Greece has also been the scene of unrest this summer. The Greek government announced further cuts in wages, salaries, and jobs in its attempt to manage the country's debt. The Greek people who feel the impact of these ongoing austerity measures have responded with ongoing angry demonstrations. Macedonia Kunsampeli has the story.
Sometimes they clash with the police. Mostly, they channel their anger through peaceful demonstrations. But every day, for the past 5 months, the indignant Greeks flock to the streets to protest government austerity measures, part of the bailout plan by the European Union and the International Monetary Fund.
Κουμάντο κάνουν οι τραπεζίτες. Δεν κάνουν πια κουμάντο στην Ελλάδα οι Έλληνες. Γιατί μας έχει ξεπουλήσει στο δούνο του.
Every Greek family is affected. In less than 2 years, wages and pensions are cut up to 30%. Unemployment doubled. 2 out of 10 people have no job. 20% of Greeks live under the poverty line.
Having to pay an ever-increasing debt and under a state of ever-increasing poverty, it's not a life.
Odysseus is a 50-year-old graphic designer. He barely makes a living and joins demonstrations in front of the Greek parliament every night at Syntagma Square. So does Sissi, a public university employee. She fears losing her job after the government announced further cuts in public spending, including 250,000 layoffs in the public sector within a year.
Απέναντι σε αυτή τη βία, η μόνη δύναμη πραγματικά που έχουμε είναι η μαζικότητα. Να κατέβουν 10 εκατομμύρια Έλληνες στον δρόμο, εδώ, όλοι.
And while the Greek protests catch the attention of the media worldwide, the international community keeps a close eye on the Greek debt problem that fires up scenarios about a new global recession in case of a Greek default. Greek economists say that default or exit from the European currency is not an option.
The priority that has to be put forward by both the IMF and the European Union is how the economy will be invigorated and avoid the deep recession.
But the question remains, how can the economy bounce back to growth? 183,000 businesses went bankrupt or shut down. 1 out of 4 shops in central Athens has closed because Greeks have little or no money to spend.
Οι 100.000 από τις οποίες θα είναι το τελευταίο τετράμινο του έτους.
This is expected to bring a few more 100,000 angry Greeks in the streets in the next few months. For STU Journalism, Macedonia Koutsoumbela from Athens, Greece.
Now, with more on this ongoing story, here's Patrick Brennan speaking with Macedonia.
Thanks, Samantha. I'm here today with Macedonia Koutsoumbela. Hi, Macedonia.
Hi, Patrick.
So Macedonia, can you tell us a little bit about your personal experiences in Greece this summer?
I've spent a lot of time in squares and streets, especially in Athens, the capital of Greece, and most people are really angry. Some of them feel trapped. They don't know what they can do for it. They believe that the debt is not their problem, that they didn't create it. The governments created the problem, and therefore they are stating they're not willing to take any more austerity measures. But the most important thing I have seen is that there is a growing suspicion about the role of media in the Greek system and the Greek society. Many people told me, don't film us, we don't want our faces to be on the camera, we don't want the police knocking on our door. And to me that is strange that in a modern democracy state, people are still afraid to protest openly and bear the consequences.
Have the protests had any sort of effect?
Since May 2010, when we had the first big protests in Greece, and up to now, that the protests are still going on and on every time the government announces new austerity measures, there is a growing movement in people. They participate a lot more. They have grown into a civil movement, and they are trying the best way they can to resist the austerity measures. But the problem is that because Greece needs to reduce its debt and some measures and reforms must take place according to the plan, even if a measure is reconsidered or withdrawn, there is another one coming up the next day, and this starts a new circle of protests.
So what then are some of the options faced by the people of Greece?
The main problem is a cash problem. Greece has enough cash to carry its debt only until the mid-October right now, and that is why the European Union, the International Monetary Fund, are trying to make sure that it follows strict rules so that we avoid a case of a Greek default in the global economy. The options they really have is either go on some kind of controlled default if they are unable to pay their current obligations, or if we see any kind of movement growing further in Greece, that would mean that the country might have to reconsider going to election. No one can predict what the next step will be. All we can do is just wait and see how things evolve.
Okay. Thank you very much, Macedonia. Back to you guys in the studio.
Most islands off the Bay of Fundy are known for their beauty and historic fishing villages. Indian Island has become known for its faithful summer resident, 90-year-old Dorothy Pringle Schneider, an American woman who fell in love with the island in 1953. Andrea Silverthorne reports.
Every summer, the Campobello Deer Island Ferry passes back and forth in front of Indian Island. Only by special arrangement will it detour to its shores. And each summer it does just that for Dorothy Pringle Schneider, her family, and the few remaining visitors that come to Indian Island each summer.
We all came here to see the house, and it really wasn't too much to see the very first time we saw the house, because all four houses had been more or less stripped of any antiques, and there were bare rooms with very little left, just things that nobody wanted.
Dorothy and her husband first discovered Indian Island on a fishing trip in 1953. They visited the island with George Barry, a real estate speculator from Chicago. He had heard about efforts to resurrect plans to build a tidal dam in the area.
My husband started in getting the electricity into the house because the telephone poles were already here. They were installed, I believe, in 1944.
The hum you heard in the background is a generator. The island lost its electricity to a cable break some years ago, but that has not deterred Dorothy from returning to the island each summer. Her daughter Sharon bought the house next door and now spends summers here with her mother, her cats, and her brother's dog, West. After her husband died, Dorothy decided to write a book about the island's long-dead residents. It was the island cemetery that inspired her efforts, and she named the book after the island's first settler, James Chaffee, taking care to include all the major families who once lived there, and the people who were still alive to share her early summers.
And this is our family with Uncle Willie on the beach. That's my husband and my son. It has to be Sharon. Want to hang on for uneven ground?
With the exception of the island's electricity, Dorothy's only complaint is the loss of the area's fish and what she calls Indian Island's Velvet Highway.
You could continue from the shore on King's Highway going toward the back of the island on a beautiful mossy road that they called the Velvet Road back then. It was back in the 60s that the woodcutters came. They had draft horses and sleds, and they logged out down further on the island, and when they left, it was just a disaster with branches and things all over the road, and it was never cleaned up.
Dorothy is very happy about the only other change in her summers, the weather.
In 1954, when we packed clothes to come here, we packed things that you would expect to see in the winter.
For STU Journalism, this is Andrea Silverthorne.
Thanks for watching.
Please join us in a couple of weeks for the next installment of the Basement Tapes.